Tune in to the Red, White, and Blue Show, where David, Martin, and Nick will blow your mind talking religion, politics, and money too. It's a talk show that's always in prime time. With their unique perspectives and in-depth analysis, they'll keep you informed on the latest news. So join the conversation on the Red, White, and Blue Show with David, Martin, and Nick. Your go-to views.
Okay, so it's the Red, White and Blue Show. You can catch myself, David Polden, Nick Smith and Martin Costello each and every single Wednesday at 7 p.m. on Twitter Spaces, talking about the latest and hottest topics. Unfortunately, we don't have Nick with us this evening. I think he's a little bit under the weather, as he was last week, and it'll just be me and Martin taking you through. Martin, how have you been doing? All right, you good?
I am very well, thank you. After a little technical hiccup there, we started quarter of an hour late today, but as usual, we are here, ready to cover the latest topics. So I can't wait to get started.
Yeah, I think the old 77th Brigade joined us just then. So never mind that. Right, okay, so I just wanted to touch on a bit on identity politics. Just starting off with Shamina Begum. Now, Shamina Begum, as we know, she was denied her appeal, so she's not allowed back into the UK. You know, we're aware of that. So anyway, I put out a tweet not long after that, just saying Shamina Begum is a dirty Islamic terrorist and she's not welcome in the UK, right? Lots of people agree, you know, normal people will agree, but obviously the lefties and that, they don't, and they like to, you know, create something out of nothing. So this tweet goes out, and then obviously I'm getting a bit of hot air from the usual suspects, and I get called a racist, I get called an Islamophobe, and blah 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 blah, etc. etc. So anyway, I want to go through one of these replies. There was a guy there whose name was Mr. Truth Intelligencer, and he put, so if she'd have been a white British girl, she'd have just have been groomed at 15 years old, but because she isn't, she's a dirty Islamic terrorist. So I said, why you bring a race into it, you racist? Yeah, you racist prick. And he put, just pointed out your typical flaws, rules for one but not the other. So I said, no, you're making an assumption. He said, I've seen your posts over the years. So I said, please give me an example. And in brackets, I put, you must have one from over the years. Even if she was a white Islamic terrorist, I'd say the same. And he's put, sometime tomorrow. Now it's time. Now it's bedtime. So I put like night, comrade. This is, you know, it's the usual crap from them. And you know, usual. And I had a similar tweet from someone else who was, you know, accusing me of the same thing. And I just said to him, you know, if I had have tweeted, David Copeland is a dirty right-wing extremist, because he was saying why the dirty, why the Islamic. So I said, you know, if I had said David Copeland is a dirty right-wing extremist or dirty right-wing terrorist, I said, would you have tweeted me then? He's perfectly understandable, but that's what they do. They twist things and they make things into, you know, identity politics. You know, the wording they use, they're very clever with their groups and stuff, as we know. But you know, this is what they do. They twist things. They try and make everything about identity, separate groups, you know, and create divisions. And you know, it's I was just intrigued by it. Do you know what I mean? The messages, and I do read through some of them, and I do have a look, Martin, you know, Futu and that, because obviously, you know, you got to be careful. There's a lot of left-wing extremists out there. But it just goes to show you know, they're absolutely batshit crazy.
They are. Talking about batshit crazy people on the subject was that Owen Jones, and he tweeted that we should be allowing Shamina back into the country. You know, this is someone who has given no thought to the victims that she's been involved with. And like you said, it's this identity politics once again. They're playing like emotions rather than, you know, your head, your brain. It'll be an
Yeah,
absolute
rational thinking. Yeah,
rational
yeah,
thinking. And
yeah.
if would he be saying that if she like perhaps killed one of his family or something?
Yeah,
She's seen some horrendous things.
of course
And
he
she's
would. Of
come out with
course
some
he would.
terrible accusations. So why? And if she was white, perhaps would he be defending her?
Yeah, I think he would. I don't think that's the case at all, Martin. To be honest, I think what you find is with the radical leftists like Owen Jones and the Corbynites and the rest of them, all the far left extremists, they'll side with anybody, absolutely anybody who's anti-British. We've seen it with Jeremy Corbyn, old Comrade Corbyn, with pictures of him with, Hamas, he's at funerals laying wreaths. We see him in the 70s with the IRA. Anybody who's anti-British, they will side with. Shamina Begum could have killed Owen Jones's mother, and I think he would still support her coming back as long as she's anti-British. That's what it's all about, breaking down the British identity. So they will side with anybody and anything. They really do not care. They are lower than a belly steak, mate.
And that's why the Labour Party is not the Labour Party of the working class. It could not be any different now, and that's why I'm trying to drum into people that there is no left and right anymore. And the Labour Party do not represent the working class. They're a different beast now. This woke, horrible beast, and they absolutely hate Britain. That's the most ironic thing. Like you say, they really hate our country, and I just cannot understand it. And they're quite happy to contribute to destroying it. These radical lefts just getting out of control now. If you're begging from someone as evil as Shamina Begum to come back, I mean, what does that say about those people? How far we've gone and lost things. It's just completely out of control.
Yeah, I mean this is it, and it's like yeah, I was having a conversation. I won't go into too much detail at the moment, but we were talking about Kelly J. Keane, the female activist who speaks out against transgender extremism, I suppose would be the way to say it. Encouraging kids to have gender reassignment, and they're having life-changing operations and stuff like that, and men being allowed into women-only areas, and have you seen her? You must have seen her.
Yeah, absolutely sickening what's going on.
Yeah, and recently I've heard she's been under attack by left-wing extremists and stuff, and these basically men turning up to these gatherings that they do, and intimidating them and stuff, and it just goes to show, doesn't it? That's okay, but could you imagine if it was the shoe was on the other foot? It would be the never-ending story, wouldn't it? As it usually is.
Yeah, but I mean, they've been indoctrinated in schools now, haven't they? And these are the sort of people they're churning out, and it's that generation. I'm afraid they've been through our Marxist education system, and this identity politics is a big weapon in their arsenal. They don't see anything else. It's all about their vanity and things like that. Saying that they're gay and stuff to try and fit in and be cool. Really, that's what they see it as. And if you say anything, then you're a homophobe or whatever. It's bad.
Your friends did a write-up about David Curtin recently. So do you remember you had the Hope Not Hate? They did a little piece about it, didn't they?
Oh, that was very kind of them to do that. That's a great article.
It really was. Yeah. Like I said to you, you could put it in your bio. It was awesome. Yeah.
What did they say about poor old David?
I haven't seen yet, but he did a video on YouTube about 2 days ago. The title's called "A Badge of Honor." So anyone listening, I'd recommend just check it out. And yeah, it was Hope Not Hate. Again, they put out like a piece about him.
And actually, interestingly, they are starting to rear their ugly heads again, aren't they? Because all these protests we're now seeing with concerned parents outside fakey G hotels, they are counter-protesting with their as usual busting paid-for protesters boards, causing trouble again. They're the ones bringing racism basically into something where it's not about race or anything. And they seem to be getting active again. So that's quite a worry, that is. But they need to be careful because nothing becomes between parents and their children, and they are really rubbing people up the wrong way at the moment. But
yeah, I mean, the thing is, mine, as we said before, sorry to stop you. It's basically they've infiltrated every single institution from government to local government, our education system, our police, local councils, social, whatever it is. They've got their claws in, and even the church. And this is a global thing. This is what globalism about. And I don't know if you've seen that video that came out of Melbourne, and there was a church. I believe it was on St Kilda Street. I used to live near there. And what they've done is they've painted the staircase to the church in the gay rainbow.
Oh God!
And the priest there. Well, let's just say you wouldn't trust him to look after your kids, put it that way. He looks a bit, yeah. But anyway, so they put out this rainbow thing there, and a few Christians have been up there asking questions and filming them and stuff. And the other night, some Christians went out and painted the steps with concrete and took away the rainbow from outside. But what we're going to see now is we're going to see more and more people start taking direct action. We're seeing it, with these ULEZ cameras. We're seeing it with it because what's happened is it's got to a point now where people can't even speak. You're not even allowed to have an alternative opinion. So as we know, you tear a man's tongue out, and the only way to express himself as left is violence. And that being said, I don't condone violence, but there will only be one winner. There will only be one side that will win, and it will not be them. They're absolute fraggles. They couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag, and then it will be right-wing extremists attack, blah blah blah. And do you see this is the road that they're going down?
It is, and we've seen it in history. It's happened many a time. But this is what happens if you get censorship to the extreme that we've got in this country now. People are going to bottle up their emotions. And they're going to vent it in the worst possible ways because there is no dialogue, no democracy. It's just like a bottle of Coca-Cola shaken up, ready to explode, basically. And this is their own doing. They caused all this by not listening to people. When you look at Oxford, they had a vote on the 50-minute cities. 90% didn't want it, but they go ahead and do it anyway. That's why you're seeing people rip down the bollards and things, and it's just going to get worse and worse.
I hope they do. I think people need to take direct action. That's the only way to do it. And we were having a discussion in London. I know some people here I was talking to recently, and there's lots of videos you've probably seen of people tearing down cameras and stuff like that. And I was talking to a bloke recently. He said the only way forward is direct action. He said to me, once we rip down these cameras and we smash them up, he said they have to then pay for those cameras to be replaced. They have to pay for the labour costs of a maintenance guy to go out and refit them, and in the meantime they're not taking any money. He said so you've hit them in their pocket, and you continuously tear down the cameras and tear down. So then there's no ANPR cameras, and I thought you've got a point there. If you look at the old Extinction Rebellion, they did the same, didn't they? They took direct action and. Look where it got them.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, we don't condone any such actions.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
This is how far
Perish
it's pushed people now, though.
Yeah.
This is how far it's pushed people, though, because they're not being listened to, and they've got no one but themselves to blame. We're not going to. They're trying to enforce these 15-minute cities with this complete surveillance system that goes hand in hand with it. People aren't going to stand for that. I don't think they realise. That there's going to be a significant amount of people backlash. A lot of people just sit there and do nothing as usual. They're too lazy to fight for their freedoms. But you are going to get a significant amount of people that's going to rebel against this. And you won't see it on the BBC, that's for sure.
No, well, I hopefully enough people will rise up. But unfortunately, Martin, I think we're heading down a long, dark rabbit hole that, there's a lot of people, a lot of keyboard warriors, couch potatoes and woulda, shoulda, coulda people, and unfortunately, I think our country is so docile, and the people in this country, there's a hell of a lot of people with low IQs and we saw that with all the lockdown business, and people were still believing in the Conservative Party. They've been in power like 12 years, and we've seen worse levels of immigration than when Blair was in power, and it's like. And they're still voting for them. It's like obviously you are, but let's just leave it there. But it's like there's a lot of people that are still asleep, and they need a bit of encouragement to wake up. And I think by the time they do wake up, it's going to be too late, and we're already going to be in that system. We've got a globalist prime minister. Did you see what he said recently, Martin, about Northern Ireland?
He basically, they got a single market over there now. He's basically going to sacrifice Northern Ireland, wouldn't he, I suppose?
He's saying Northern Ireland's the best of both worlds, he says, because it's part of the UK market and the EU.
It's beggars belief, though. We are still talking about Brexit 7 years on because they still haven't sorted this mess out. Our globalist government never had any intention of making it work. All they're trying to do is stall it and give it a few more years and be dragging us back in because we haven't
left
full potential at all. We haven't left.
We never left. No, we never left. It's Bino, Brexit and name only. They're globalists. They don't want us to leave. They're slags. They're dirty so-and-sos. I watch my P's and Q's, but it's a deliberate stitch up. We're still part of, EU regulations, rules, legislation, you name it. We're tied into EU Commission, the Court of Human Rights, everything. We're still tied into everything. And if we had Brexit, we wouldn't be part of any of these, laws or regulations because we would have left. The reason we're still part of it is because they're just playing a long game and looking to take us back in. And we know the Conservatives, they didn't want Brexit. There was only a handful of them that sort of saw an opportunity, like Boris Johnson. And that was it, but they're all Remainers, weren't they? So it's not going to happen. But whilst we're on the topic of that, whilst we're on the top of that, I know you wanted to touch on the old tomato situation because it's a bit of a shortage of tomatoes.
Wow, isn't there?
As is eggs.
As is eggs as well. The first thing we see online on these usual Facebook pages like Rejoin EU, Leads for EU, all these sort of Facebook pages that have been set up by these EU extremists, they started blaming the tomato shortage on Brexit and coming out of all sorts of false information and missing context that it was our Brexit that was to blame for this. But actually, in fact, it has got nothing to do with that at all because our country predominantly this time of year gets our tomatoes from two places. One, the first being North Africa, which obviously the climate's warmer, except they've been having weather issues over there recently, so that's destroyed a lot of the crops. And two, our own farmers would grow tomatoes in greenhouses, but because the cost of energy has gone up so much, because we're being absolutely fleeced by these oil and gas companies, the farmers haven't been able to produce any. But once again, what we see though is the Ramonas just trying to any situation where they think they can blame it on Brexit, they got to jump in.
Oh, they're
there.
pathetic. Yeah, they're pathetic. Yeah.
Anything, honestly. And,
we've got bad weather. It's because of Brexit. Oh, we've got this. It's because of Brexit. And you've got there's a global recession going on. There are countries, the price of cooking oil is through the roof everywhere. I spoke to a friend of mine in Romania, and it's like pretty much the same as what it is here, if not more expensive. Romania, as you know, they've not long been in the EU, and they haven't left the EU, and their prices are sky high as well. Is that to do with Brexit? Or is that to do with a global recession? Is that to do because we've shut down the economy for 2 years? I think we'll find, it's the latter. They're just pathetic, Martin, aren't they? Really, they're sad.
Pathetic.
They're sad. We've had run-ins with loads of them, and we know how sad they are and how weird they are, and that's what it's all about. They're deranged.
I think it's a mental illness. I really do, because it's just because. At the time, it was quite a subject that divided people because obviously a lot of people were following the mainstream media and radicalized by that and not knowing the full facts. And it turned friends into enemies, broke up families and stuff. But these people are so bitter they would rather cut off their nose to spite their face with the fail. They'd find anything at all to try and put this amazing opportunity down, and it doesn't help when you've got this globalist government not doing what they could for this country and stifling it. It's a really, really bad state of affairs. But, we've got to keep fighting for this until it is properly achieved. And, really, the referendum was just the first step forward. The battle's still going on and people don't realise it. All Ramonas are saying, we've had Brexit, but like you said, we haven't at all. There's so many things that haven't been resolved. So many things.
Yeah.
And until we get past that, these people should be back in the country. I mean, if they don't like it here, it's the same people, like you said earlier, though, the ones that are, they hate our country. They really do. They just want us to fail. And they should go and move somewhere else, to be quite honest. They've had a chance to move to the EU. Why don't they go over there if it's so great?
Well, you know what? I think, do you see recently King Charles met with, what's her name? Ursula von... I forgot what her name is now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it was
the head of the
von der Leyen or something. I think I can't remember her name. Yeah. I mean, that wasn't a very smart move, was it?
Why is he getting involved?
He's a globalist as well, and he's part of the World Economic Forum himself. So. Exactly.
But they should, if anything, he should not be getting involved. It's got nothing to do with the crown. Same with the Queen, really. Apparently, she signed a lot of our sovereignty over initially, which was absolute outrageous. These people should be back in our country, but like you said, they're just globalists. But there's talk actually that King Charles will be the next leader of the World Economic Forum. I mean, this is mind-boggling. That's not going to help the monarchy at all. There's something very awry going on at the moment. But it's a globalist takeover, isn't it, as you said?
Yeah, literally everywhere, literally. Ireland are fighting back against it. I see lots of videos coming out of Ireland, so big up the Irish people, enough respect to them. They've still got their community spirit there, so that's why it's they're still hanging on, whereas elsewhere it's it's lost for in London. It's completely gone. Yeah, so anyway, Martin, I think we'll call it there, mate, and we'll catch up, regroup on next week. Hopefully Nick will be feeling better and he'll be able to join us and be able to smash out.
Sounds good. I'm gonna have a cheese and tomato sandwich now. With salty Remainer tears on it.
Might go and have some scrambled eggs. Nice one, Martin. Take care, mate.
Speak soon.
Yes.